are here on a Smithfield site to look at the digester. My name is Becky Spearman. I'm with North Carolina Corporate Extension, Bladen County, and I'm a livestock agent. And joining me today, we have
Mahmoud Sharara. I'm Extension Specialist, Assistant Professor at NC State University, Bio and Ag Engineering Department.
Jason Olmstead with Smithfield Hog Production.
Jason. Why would a swine producer consider installing a digester?
Some of the main reasons would be a secondary revenue source for the farm to add to the hog production.
So Mahmoud, explain how digesters work.
Well, digesters are kind of biological systems that contain bacteria similar to the bacteria that you find in the digestive system of any animal or a human. And this bacteria breaks down the poor organics, and in this process, they release gases. The biggest gas they release is methane. This gas, when it's released to the atmosphere, it is a greenhouse gas, and we don't like it being released to the atmosphere. But inside the digester, it's actually contained and captured to become an energy source.
What is biogas, and how is it being used today?
So biogas is a mix of the gases that the bacteria make while breaking down the manure in the digester. The biogas is primarily methane, about 60 to 70%, and the second common gas in the biogas is carbon dioxide. And then there are some other gases, but primarily hydrogen sulfide. It's in the parts per million, so not high concentration.
So what's the difference between a covered lagoon and installing a digester?
The main difference is the digester is a brand new structure on the farm, similar to a synthetically lined lagoon that you may have, only it'll have a synthetic cover over it. The covered lagoon is just taking one of the existing lagoons from the farm that you have, installing a cover over it to capture the gas. They're very similar once they're done, but it's just the economics of whether to build new or to cover what you have if you can.
So what are the financial benefits of installing a digester?
The financial benefits are another revenue source for the farm, and that may vary depending on the risk that the farmer or grower is willing to take in the program as to how much that revenue source will be due to their current.
So can you explain the models of establishing and operating digesters in North Carolina?
Yeah, right now we have kind of two models that we're using. One is a grower-owned facility where they own the digester and all the waste management equipment, and the joint venture will own and operate the gas equipment at the site. And in that, the grower takes a little more risk and there's a little more reward in the revenue stream. The other model is actually where the JV owns everything, and the farmer and grower is just responsible for feeding the digester, making sure the flows get to it day to day. There's less risk, obviously less reward and revenue, but ultimately their responsibility is to feed the digester consistently from the farm in either case. It's just with the higher risk of owning more of it, they're responsible for more.
So how much time would an owner-operator spend on running the digester?
It's going to be a little bit more time and effort, obviously, with it. And you have your normal daily operations on the farm that you have to do with checking the animals, checking your open lagoons and lift stations. With the addition of the digester, you're going to have another lagoon to walk around and check your freeboard, just observing, any oddities, any odd smells, like a rotten egg smell from H2S that might, say there's a potential leak or a hole in the cover that someone needs to be notified about. But otherwise, it's going to be very similar to the normal operations of the farm, just an additional thing.
So could any swine farm install a digester?
There are certain size criteria that we've established, and most of that is based on an equivalent to a feeder to finish facility. We do put digesters at feeder to finish, wean to finish, and sow farms, but we bring those back to a feeder to finish equivalent of roughly 3,000 head. Is kind of where the lower limit seems to be for the economics. The current systems that are in, we've kind of drawn that line around 6,000, but with additional funding opportunities that are out there and some tax credits, we believe that can get down to closer to 3,000.
So what changes would a farmer need to make if they're going to install a digester?
That's a really good question. One of the main upgrades they will need to make probably relates to the power, the electricity availability on the site, depending on the types of pumps that you need to install or operate to move them to and from the digester. Another upgrade or another consideration is the area or the footprint of the digester itself. This area, depending on the site specifications, might come out from a spray field, for instance. So being able to accommodate this area going out of their waste management plan without any issues impacting their management. Another point that we need to consider also is that inside the digester, most of the solids will be building up in the digester, not in the lagoon as they have been used to. So after a period of operation, that could be 2 to 3 years, they may need to actually extract the sludge from under the digester, within the digester, not from the secondary lagoon like they have been used to.
Could you both explain how a farmer can ensure that their digester is working well?
Yes. Most of it's going to be observation and looking at it, but a lot of it is just making sure that the farm is operating how it should be. If you have flush tanks, that those systems are working and operating correctly, your recycle pumps are running, that you've trained your staff at the farm on the proper ways, how to pull the plugs in a pull plug barn regularly. It's just really about feeding it. I mean, it needs to eat every day just like us. If you don't feed it, it doesn't make biogas. Just like if we don't eat, we don't survive.
Absolutely. Understanding that there is seasonality to the performance of the digester depending on the weather, depending on the cycle of productions and animal moving in the barn. Also understanding what are the telltale signs of issues inside the digester. And a lot of the research that we are conducting at the moment is to build up that knowledge so that we can communicate that to the growers putting in the digester to eliminate the risk or the learning curve around putting the digester.
Can you explain the overall safety of the digester and when people are working around the digester?
Yeah, there's multiple safety things that we've had to address and train our people on. One of them is the fact is you're working around a sealed environment full of methane and CO2. And there's a risk with that, just like any. But a lot of the other risks around the digester are very similar to the risks we have on farms today. An open lagoon where we have the opportunity with a synthetic liner that you can slip, wearing life jackets around them to ensure that you stay afloat. And lift stations, we've always had them. There's always been concerns of confined space and gases around those. So a lot of it's not new. It's just training people how to know what to look for, what to do. Maybe they haven't had a lift station, and training them on those, but also bringing them up to speed on the safety concerns around dealing with gas and where they should and shouldn't be, and when they should notify somebody that maybe there's a problem, and allowing those people to do the work that are trained.
Absolutely. Important to understand what are the risks associated with a digester, and understanding what the site layout looks like. Clear signage is always important, and like Jason indicated, a lot of the swine producers are familiar with potential risk sources on the farm, and a lot of the training that we work with to provide is to help them recognize the risk factors and eliminate them to continue to be productive without any compromise or risk to themselves or to the property.